Laissez le vent qui frôle sa main sur mon épaule, me vide dans ma tête, pas la moindre cachette. C'est l'aube qui décline derrière un champ de ruines, le moment de grandir, ne pas te retenir. Je vois derrière nous des morceaux de toi et ce que la douleur a fait de moi. Tout l'univers, nos deux cœurs sous la terre. Trouver un point d'impact sans toi. Que deviendront nos souffles s'ils restent sur le bord? Cet amour qui nous tord. Je vois derrière nous des morceaux de toi.
Moment, jetzt. So, einen wunderschönen guten Abend zum zweiten Mal. Herzlich willkommen zur ESC-Sprechstunde aus Rotterdam live aus dem Ahoi. Ich hoffe, ihr könnt mich jetzt hören. Das würde mich sehr freuen, damit ich jetzt endlich mit euch kommunizieren kann zum 4. Probentag. Alle, die zum ersten Mal dabei sind, sind herzlich eingeladen, diesen Kanal hier zu abonnieren, ein Glöckchen zu läuten, ein Like zu hinterlassen und vielleicht auch den Stream zu teilen mit ihren Freundinnen und Freunden. Wir wollen heute über den 4. Probentag sprechen, aber vor allem wollen wir mit einem sehr, sehr spannenden Gast uns unterhalten und dafür setze ich wieder meine Maske auf, denn wir haben hier ja strenge Sicherheitsvorkehrungen. Moment. Und dann rücke ich mal ein bisschen hier rüber. So again, I'm sorry. Sometimes there are some issues we have to overcome, but it's working now. So again, you told that you are actually a Eurovision fan.
Of course I am, yes. If not, I couldn't do this work for more than 10 years already. You have to love it, and well, the love started like everyone else around the age of 10 or something like that, and the first time you saw Eurovision, and it's such an amazing show with such a diversity of performances for a whole night. And yes, I think even at the newspaper they saw how enthusiastic I am about the Eurovision Song Contest, and I do have a complete other position at the newspaper as a journalist, but for 2 weeks in a year I have this special position of Eurovision Song Contest correspondent.
Okay. So what is your duty in this position?
Oh yes, I usually write stories about the city of Amsterdam. And we had a small meeting before, and there was just interesting news coming from Amsterdam about a new director of the oldest monument in town, and I wrote a lot about her, and she's leaving, and that was I was really happy to see that. I was waiting for years for this moment. So yes, but now Eurovision is what counts, and I informed my colleagues to write a story about for tomorrow's newspapers.
So, how did it all start? When did you first enter the Eurovision bubble, and was it difficult to let's say to convince your colleagues to write about Eurovision?
No, that was the most easiest part. I can remember that in 1999, and colleagues were really surprised. In 1999, the Eurovision Song Contest was held in Jerusalem, and I didn't want to go to Jerusalem, or I already was a fan, and I decided to go for a weekend and to Stockholm. And my main purpose was viewing the Eurovision Song Contest somewhere in Stockholm. So from the moment I landed on the airport, I was looking for a place where I could watch the Eurovision. Well, Stockholm is the capital of Sweden, and it already was very popular there. And of course I found a place with about a couple of hundred people watching the Eurovision Song Contest. And I was very proud of the Dutch entry that year. We had a nice song, One Good Reason by Marlene. But you could feel the tension in the place I was with the hundreds of Swedish fans. And you could feel the tension, and everyone was excited because Sweden was one of the entries that could win. Although there was also Iceland was also mentioned as a potential winner that year, and it was very exciting when the voting started, and Iceland and Sweden came up, and for me it was a magical thing because Sweden won, as you know, of course. But there's always happening something special when you are in the country that wins, because the enthusiasm, the party is getting bigger. And I think after Eurovision was ended and Sweden had the win, we had a party for hours and hours and hours. And I remember I came back in my hotel at 6 o'clock in the morning, so huge. And that was for me that was the moment I got addicted. I know I was a fan, and I invited people. Every time Eurovision Song Contest was not television, I invited people at home. And even I had a small television, it was no problem for me to invite 30 people with 3-0, so nobody could see. But the nights were always, very successful. But I got addicted in Stockholm. Well, there's no better place to get addicted to Eurovision than Stockholm. So I decided next year I will go away from Amsterdam again, and I just pick a new country, but not again to Stockholm. But Stockholm was, of course, the organizing country in the year 2000. And I thought, let's pick a capital where I've never been before, and I picked Denmark. That was a big coincidence. You know what happened in 2000? Denmark won, and it was really, really beautiful weather. The party was even bigger than in Stockholm because they were hoping for a victory, of course, in Denmark, but nobody was expecting the victory going to Denmark. And I remember I made new friends, and it was again around 6 o'clock in the morning when I went to bed, and it was so hot and so warm. I will never forget those nights. I got addicted, and I don't know if there's a superior form of being addicted, but that was what happened in Copenhagen.
So, when did you bring your journalistic work and Eurovision together?
It took till 2010 when the contest was held in Oslo. It was the first time my newspaper sent me to the Eurovision Song Contest. But I also remember I organized a big party for about 50 of my colleagues in 2005, and I rented the most tiniest theater in Amsterdam with a big screen, and there was champagne for everyone. It was like it was my wedding party. Yeah, and of course I also invited some managers, and they were absolutely convinced at that moment that I needed to be the next Eurovision reporter of the Telegraaf. 2010 was my first year, and it was also the first year there was a switch in the broadcasting company that organized the entry of the Netherlands. And I remember we had an amazing entry that year. It was Sineke with Ik ben verliefd, shalali shalala, a Dutch language song. And that started, it's just, only 11 years ago, but my only task was to write story for our newspaper. And it was not that hard, but it was for me the first time I was in the bubble. I was not only in between, I also visited Eurovision Song Contest a couple of times, and this was the first time I was part of it. Well, at least it felt you were part of it, because you're still a journalist. Well, of course, most journalists are fans. I'm also a fan, but I'm also a journalist, and it makes that you are also very critical about what is happening around, and that gives, of course, the best and most interesting stories if you're not only a fan, but also see, there's also something going wrong. And there was a lot of things going wrong with the Dutch broadcasting company. They really had to learn how to manage a Eurovision entry. And, they did, of course. And they were quick learners because the Netherlands was not very successful, as you know. It was in 2010. It was the 6th time in a row that the Netherlands didn't reach the final. And in 2011, 2012, it happened again. So we're still a record holder with 8 consecutive years of not reaching the Eurovision final. Well, nobody's getting close. Well, I think maybe there's a country with 6 times in a row, but 8 times is still the records. And
but how did people manage to keep up the tension and to still love Eurovision? I think if Germany would not take part in the final for 8 consecutive years, there would be no Eurovision in Germany anymore.
That's quite easy. The former broadcasting company didn't have any interest at all. Well, they're participating right now, but okay, this is a different year. And there was an invitation. Well, we have a strange broadcasting landscape in the Netherlands. We have about 10 public broadcasting companies, and the former the NOS, the former broadcasting company that organized the annual entry for the Netherlands, it stopped. They didn't like it anymore, and they sent a letter. Is there another broadcasting company that want to take over our role in Eurovision? There was only one broadcasting company interested. It was the Tros, and nowadays they are called Avro-Tros because of a merger. And when you spoke to the director of Tros at that time, he said, well, it's quite cheap. I want a lot of viewers for a program, and it's not very expensive to participate to the Eurovision Song Contest. So it was not really like they had a passion for it. And also some people that worked for the Tros at that time, it's like, yeah, we have to do this. We can get a lot of viewers, and that's one of our tasks. But when you do the Eurovision, and even for the Tros, that say, well, we want to do it. It's such an interesting event that the interest keeps growing through the years. You get a love affair with Eurovision, and you don't want to stay in the semi-final year after year. And that's what also happened to the Tros. After 3 years, they say, well, we're going to organize a big national final again in the Netherlands. They saw how Sweden organized it every year with a very successful television format called, well, Melodiefestivalen. It still is very successful. And they wanted to copy that. So you saw, and that was very interesting, you saw the love for Eurovision was growing, and we wanted to quit. We wanted to stop the 8 years in a row that the Netherlands didn't reach the final. And they had a big plan, but as you know, the big plan was skipped. After Anouk said, no, I want to do Eurovision. And there was a big quarrel in the broadcasting company. Well, there were 2 camps. One camp said, oh, we have to bring Anouk to the song contest. She is a professional. She knows what she will do. And the other said, no, we want to take the Melodiefestivalen format, bring to the Netherlands. And I think, well, everyone knows. The people at the broadcasting company that supported Anouk, they won. And 1 year later, there was no national final, and Anouk got a chance. And that was also the time, but when your role as a journalist did change at the Eurovision Song Contest. That means I'm working for the newspaper. It's a printed newspaper, the biggest one in the Netherlands. And I remember from 2000, from that time, not only the printed newspaper needed attention, but we also have a website that needs a lot of attention, and it got more dynamic, our website, with more stories. And they also wanted stories from the Eurovision. When I was in Baku or in Malmo, they wanted stories. And from 2014, they say, well, we see what is happening with Eurovision. Interesting. We bring a cameraman. We send a cameraman with you to Copenhagen. So I had to make reports for video. I never did that. For me, it was also, so Eurovision was also a lesson in embracing other roles in the journalism for me.
Mm-hmm. So there were at that time also a growing number of fan pages doing live reports and streams, and for example, Vivi Blogs was developing around that time. Did you perceive them as a complement or as a concurrence?
Well, there they are competitors of you, always are. You have, well, I think it's important as a journalist that you fill in your own agenda, that you make your own stories, and, well, every journalist can think for himself and should think about the stories you want to bring. So yes, and every journalist wants to be the first with new stories. So yes, you can copy the stories of the Wiki blogs of this world, and they are good. It's a fan blog, but they are good, and they are good because they take it all. They take not only some stories now and then. No, they take it all and they go deep. You never can do that as a journalist for a newspaper. I have to pick some issues and that's it. But they're definitely competitors. I still wanted to be the first with stories from the Netherlands about Eurovision, and I always hope that Wiki Blogs is second. But yeah. But yes, they play a very good game, and one of the reasons I'm still alive is because they do a lot, but also it's good organized, and they're passionate about the Eurovision Song Contest. Mm. Yes, and when you read and see their stories and their comments, you see their love.
Definitely, but how about these tricky topics that you were talking about? If there's something about to criticize the broadcaster, do you think it's easier for you as a journalist belonging to an independent newspaper to write and speak about that?
Yes, of course. Yeah, and you have to do that. Well, you have to. Yes, as a journalist, you always have to be with a lot of criticism. Well, for example, the Dutch entry. I remember 3 years ago we were all in Lisbon, and the Netherlands sent Whalen to the Eurovision Song Contest with a country rock song, which was a good song, which absolutely was a very good song. And I was one of the journalists that was in the press center during his first rehearsal, and we know who Whalen is. He likes to joke and play around with it, and he usually wants to hide a secret what he's going to do on the stage. And he did already some performances in Lisbon with two guitars, with two men with guitars with him. And when he was doing a rehearsal on the stage, he didn't bring any musicians, while he was always telling, the music goes first. But he brought some 4 men, and they were playing music instruments, guitars and drums, and it was definitely fake. And from the first second you saw it was fake. And after 1 minute they stopped playing their instruments, and they were starting breakdancing. And it was a complete crazy idea with this country rock song to mix it with the breakdancing they did. So I made a very huge story. It was the most read story for about 48 hours on our website, which says, was this rehearsal a joke? And, well, I know the people at Team Whalen, the Dutch delegation, of course they allowed me to write that story, but they were not all happy to write the story. On the other hand, what I did was I was so critical that I put the questions you had about his performance on the right place. I think it also helped the Dutch delegation for the years after Whalen.
Yeah, but at some point, I think that the Team Whalen was ready not to talk with you anymore about anything they would do or plan.
Yes, you're right. There was one moment they stopped talking to me, and not only to me, but also to my biggest competitor in the Netherlands, the Algemeen Dagblad, and those are the two biggest newspapers, because we were too critical. It was not the choice of the broadcasting company; it was the choice of Whalen. And well, of course, I'm also a smart journalist, because the day after he boycotted me, I had a big interview in the newspaper like there was nothing going on. And that was because I made a lot of preparations and could put that in one big interview. So everyone was surprised. Oh, there was a boycott. Oh, the next day we had a huge page with Whalen talking about his performance, which was crazy. It was like nothing was going on. And I was also there with someone with a camera, and it was a really, really, really beautiful woman. That also helps.
Okay, so you have your special tricks. I'm just going to get through some of the questions. Hans wants to know, now we have Eurovision in the Netherlands, what does it mean to you, and how different is it from your former Eurovision experiences?
It's completely different. I have a lot of more work. It's like, well, the fan base of Eurovision grew hugely in the Netherlands. Everyone is embracing the event. And also in the newspaper, I got a lot of more room than before to write stories about. For example, we are never interested in the presenters of the Eurovision Song Contest. We never are. Well, okay, if there is a famous actor from The Killing presenting the Song Contest, okay, it's good for a small story in a newspaper. But now, all the four of the presenters have their own story in the newspapers and all the media. And so I have to, for the first time, I have to make stories about the presenters. For the first time, I have to make a big interview with the director, which is a famous Dutch television director. We never do that. It's like we are not only interested, as usual, in the entry of the country, but we are interested in all the parts. We are now in Ahoy. Of course, we had a big interview with the director of Ahoy when she started thinking about hosting the Eurovision Song Contest, which is absolutely interesting. It's absolutely interesting story. Then you have from the start when Duncan won the Eurovision Song Contest. Well, from day 2, there was a discussion, where should we hold it? Of course. And Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Maastricht, all cities were interested in hosting the Eurovision Song Contest. So when the Eurovision Song Contest comes to your country, the first thing is that everyone is a fan, and B, everyone wants to know everything about the smallest details, which usually are not interesting at all.
Many greetings from the part of Hans, and talking about today and the semi-final. If I think about Germany, most people don't even know that there are semi-finals because we are always qualified for the final.
Yes.
So there would never be any newspaper reports on, or hardly newspaper reports on the semi-finalists. So for today's rehearsals, was there anything that you would report to your readers in the Netherlands?
Well, no. It's because we are, for the first time in history, automatically in the final. And we right now we have the same experience as Germany, as France, as the UK, that we are a lot more interested in the Eurovision Song Contest, but not about the battle of the semis is not that interesting anymore. We just hope that the best 10 will go to the final, and that's it. Of course, a lot of people, more than ever, are following the rehearsals in the Netherlands, but it's not like, well, we don't, this year we're not part of the semifinals, and for the first time, I have the same feeling as the people in Germany. Well, oh yes, of course, the other countries have to do the semifinals. And usually it's the semifinal, and especially, of course, the semifinal where your own country is participating in, has a lot of extra attentions. Who are the weakest countries? Who are the strongest? How can we have our own performance? It's it's usually a part of our stories, and this year it's like fun. No, let's hope the best 10 go to the final. And well, this brings us, of course, to the whole organization, that the 5 biggest countries are always in the final automatically, and I understand it. Of course, I understand it, because the 5 countries bring a lot of viewers, and I think that's and a lot of money, and that's of course those are of course the main reasons that Germany, France are automatically in the final, but they don't bring quality, and that's really, really, really a pity. Yes, you see, especially the UK and Spain. They don't have a good track record, and it's almost a coincidence if they end up in the top 20.
This is true. But Timo wants to know, what are the viewing figures of the semifinals in the Netherlands?
Oh my God, I don't know what the viewing figures are, but they will be huge this year, that's for sure. And that's all because we're gonna make it. And there are a lot of Dutch artists performing in the semis as well as in the final, of course. And there is also those stories were shared in the Netherlands. All the artists, and Europe is going to see a lot of huge Dutch artists in the 3 television shows. And because a lot of people are involved with the production, it also makes that everyone is more interested in viewing it. So, and I think that's what always the story is when Eurovision is in your own country. The viewing figures will be higher than ever in the Netherlands, definitely.
So in the Telegraaf you will have extra magazines just devoted to Eurovision?
Well, extra pages. Yeah, not an extra magazine, no, not at all. But extra pages, and not only. Well, I was talking about that. The Telegraaf is. I don't have to report in the printed newspaper. Well, I have to report in the printed newspaper, but also the website, also making videos, and since 3 years, we're also making a podcast every week about the Eurovision Song Contest. So it is a lot. We do a lot more than if I compare this to 10 years ago, and it's only 10 years ago. So yes, the space I got at the newspaper for the Eurovision Song Contest was growing a lot in the last 10 years. Yes.
So now maybe a difficult question, but you are earning your life with journalism. So how do you feel about this competition from fan journalists who are doing this just because they are devoted fans?
Well, look, I don't mind about that. We just discussed Blogs, which is a huge success.
I mean, do you fear that someday they will take over your work?
It could be. As well, but if they take over, then the mainstream media have lost their interest in it. And well, that can happen. I don't know. I don't. I don't know what will happen in the future. And as I watch back to the last 10 years, what's changed in the way of reporting about the Eurovision Song Contest. I don't can say what Eurovision Song Contest in 2032 will be for a journalist. I just don't know. But I still think, well, it's organized by the European Broadcasting Union. That's an organization of public broadcasters. One of the main things of the European Broadcasting Union is freedom of press. And all the members need to support journalism. In the Netherlands, we have broadcasting companies as Avro, Tros, NOS. They a big part of their television programs and radio programs need to be journalism. So they have a commitment also to journalism as EBU, but also that also goes for the members. And I hope that's not going to change. I hope they still think that journalism is a big part of the public broadcasting companies. Yes, I hope so.
So let's keep our fingers crossed. I think we should now, after this very serious question, turn back to the interesting stuff for the fans, and they want to know about the rehearsals today. And so I'm asking you as a fan, what was your favorite rehearsal?
My favorite rehearsal, it's not really hard to say. I really enjoyed the rehearsal of Portugal. I wasn't expecting that much of Portugal. They don't have a good track record. They don't have a good track record when you look at staging of their performance. And although I like the song, and of course I knew the song, not everyone does like the song. And what Portugal did was making a song that not many people were convinced of it was a nice or a good song. They took it to a higher level during their rehearsal because of the black and white. Well, the black and white was also in the national final. The colors they used the LED walls, and I never expected Portugal to do that in a very stylish way. So I was pleasantly surprised by Portugal. Bulgaria is another example of a very good rehearsal today, but to be honest, I was expecting Bulgaria to be good. So it was good. It was like a fairy tale. It was enchanting. I have to say that. But I also was expecting that. And then we have probably seen the Barbara Dex Award winner.
Which is
Albania, of course. Yes, they sent a very beautiful song this year, and we saw during the rehearsals that they designed a very special dress for the singer, which doesn't fit with the song. So I hope to see her back next year. With a slutty song or something like that, because the song Albania is sending this year is a beautiful Balkan ballad, and it deserves a beautiful dress. Well, I remember Albania. I don't remember which year. I think 2019. They had the most beautiful dress of the year by their singer. With the black. That was really beautiful. So they know how to do it in Albania. They really know. And I just thought this dress, it was a beautiful dress, but it didn't fit with the song. So we have a Barbara Dex winner.
Yeah, maybe. But even though in the first semi-final there are also some candidates, let's say. Petra says Portugal also is her dark horse this year. Ronnie says he likes Denmark, but the performance is a little bit not very inventive. So
it was fun. Yes, Denmark is a nice song. I enjoy it, and everyone will enjoy it, listening and seeing it for one time. It's completely in Danish, which is also interesting, and they don't have pretensions. They make strange movements, and the movements fits with the song. And I wouldn't mind if the Netherlands also sent a song that everyone is embracing, everyone is singing along with it. And I think Denmark is really, the Danish people love this entry. I'm for sure they love it at this entry, and they don't mind if the rest of Europe don't like it. They just have a big party with this song. And that's also important, I think. Then Switzerland. What happened with Switzerland? It is one of the most beautiful songs of this year. It's so intense, and the voice of the guy who's singing it is he uses his head voice, so beautiful. And then I don't know what happened in Switzerland, but they thought they needed a correct choreography. It's absolutely not what this song needs. So he's making strange movements. It did think, I was thrown back to 2005. In the Netherlands, we sent Glennis Grace. She became a big star after her participation in 2005. And she had a beautiful dress during the semi-final, and she was making movements like this. Nobody understood why she was doing this, because if she took the microphone and would sing the song like she usually should do, we had a good performance. And so we understand that we didn't reach the final in 2005. And I got the same feeling with Switzerland this year. The song of Switzerland is a lot better than the Dutch song in 2005. No doubt about that. But the one who was thinking that this song needed a choreography had a strange idea in his mind.
Yeah, and I think the strangest thing was that when because I think that John Steers he's a cute guy, and he's nice and sympathetic, and I don't know why they put him into these trousers. It reminded me when I was young and I had to wear my uncle's old trousers because we didn't have money for buying new ones.
The outfit wasn't good at all, and John has a beautiful voice, but his expression is also not taking you into the song. Well, it's not as bad as the singer of Georgia. He didn't like to be on the stage at all.
Yeah, he seemed to be very bored. But reading through the lines when you were talking about Denmark, I have the impression that the Dutch entry is not so much appreciated by the Dutch public.
Yes, you're right about that. The Dutch entry for this year, one of the most beautiful things is about being directly into the final is that you can take a risk. And in that case, you don't have to fight for your place in the final. And there was one other thing that the Netherlands knew. They had a spot in the final at number 23. Which is also okay. I think everyone, Wayland also had spot number 23, but okay. It's not, and so you can do something special. And the song, I think most people in the Netherlands like the song. The video clip is really outrageous. It's really, really beautiful. So yes, I think we appreciate the guy, we appreciate his song, but it's also a song you have to get used to. It's not everyone is used to, for example, the Suriname language, which is used in the Dutch entry. Even a lot of people in Holland are not. And where do the people from Suriname live in Europe? It's in the Netherlands, of course, and some in Belgium, and that's it. So he's bringing something new to the Eurovision, which is good, and he can do it because he's in the final already. And I still think what I like about the song is that the Dutch singer, Janku, is kept close to himself. It's his story. I've spoken about the lyrics of this song with him, and it's almost his own story that he wants to tell. So important is that everyone is believing him, that he made a song that is very close to him. So everyone will believe him, which is also a good thing. And I think I love the song by myself, and I think a lot of people in the Netherlands will also love the song when they see it at the final and watch it and experience that it is something special. It adds something to the Eurovision. And the guy himself is very, very sympathetic.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to his rehearsal and his press conference. But as you might have heard, the press conference press center is closing, so I'm closing our talk with the last question. So what will people read in the Telegraaf about Eurovision tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely nothing.
Okay, so but you will see the next Eurovision show tomorrow evening. I will tell you the exact hour, and I want to thank Richard for his time and for his precious insight into his work.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Also ihr Lieben, wir sehen uns morgen wieder eine Stunde bevor das Pressezentrum schließt. Ich poste das dann, wann das genau sein wird, und wünsche euch jetzt einen schönen Abend. Dann kann ich euch auch schon ein bisschen was erzählen über die Live-Atmosphäre in der Halle, denn morgen dürfen wir zum ersten Mal in die Räumlichkeiten. Da freuen wir uns schon sehr drauf. Ich wünsche euch einen schönen Abend und bis morgen. Tschüss.